Now, Tony Schwartz is the co-author of Art of the Deal. So that's, of course, the book about Donald Trump. So he's been a vocal Trump critic ever since Trump got elected, and actually even before so when he started running, because he says, I've got insight into who Donald Trump really is, and he's not a good person. He is not the self-made billionaire that the mythos around him paints him to be. And so, look, he's got that inside knowledge. He's spent a lot of time with Donald Trump. So I kind of take stock in what he says. Now, he recently has been making the circuit stop around MSNBC, and he was talking to Chris Hayes. And he said that the president is now at a point where he is so isolated that even his kids can't stand him. Oh, no, well, that's interesting, right? So I want to tell you what he said. Quote, to know Trump is to hate Trump, said Schwartz, meaning everybody who knows him deep down hates him completely. This would not surprise me. Now, of course, he goes on to say, Ivanka despises him. Said Schwartz, Jared Kushner despises him, his other children. When you're around a person who devalues you, humiliates you, ignores you, shames you, what possible other reaction could you have other than to despise him? And what happens is, he continues, there's a percentage of people who feel that way and don't care because he's serving some other, or they believe he is serving some other agenda that they share. So that would be why, of course, people continue to be, I guess, lend their support to Donald Trump, despite the fact that they might actually hate their guts. To me, that actually kind of makes sense. But Jeff, you understand, if the Trump kids hate Trump so much, then why do they always defend their dad? I mean, why is Don Jr. going out there and tweeting ridiculous things? Well, look, I think the reason is, if you don't, you get cut off. I mean, look, that's the family equivalent of getting fired. And we all know the Trump family is all about firing people, right? So, again, this is assuming that this entire thing is true. Again, this is Tony Schwartz's perspective, right? And so, a grain of salt, right? But look, as far as Ivanka is concerned, right? Ivanka, it's really hard to pin down what she believes, right? Because she doesn't really believe anything. She has both tried and failed to make an image of herself as a contrarian inside the Trump administration. Remember when she said, oh, don't worry, I'm going to moderate his worst impulses. Laugh along with me. That totally did not happen. But she also said, it's not my job to moderate him. It's not my job to influence the president on things that we disagree on. Well, then what are you there for? What do you do? What is your job? In the entire time that she has been a White House advisor, what has Ivanka Trump done other than try to make business deals on her own behalf? I mean, come on. I mean, she's basically there to do the Trump grift, to basically get wealth and privilege. And she is basically there, just like her daddy, right? And that's what they do. And remember, of course, Donald Trump had screwed over his dad out of money when he got older. So, and that's even after years of being bailed out by his father, still screwed him over. In the end, to try to get more inheritance money, he got about $400 million from his daddy. So, look, it's no secret that I think people would despise him for the kind of person that he is. I despise him. Of course, the more you know about him, the more despicable he becomes. And we can say that about some other people, but not a lot. Now, Schwartz also said this, quote, it's extraordinary to imagine the level of isolation that he has reached. I mean, then again, if everybody hates you, then who you have to talk to? He says, quote, he's now alone in this White House, and I mean alone. Remember when Nixon was walking around talking to the walls? But there were still a few people. There was Haig, and there was Diane Sawyer, and there were a few people around he'd still talk to. There's nobody with Trump who he pays any attention to, who he'll give sufficient respect to, that there's an actual dialogue that can take place. And basically, all that's left is sycophants, who probably secretly hate him, but want something from him. Nobody that he respects. And let's be honest, he doesn't really respect anybody. And the people that he might possibly respect don't want him anywhere near them. And let's be fair about that. Again, this is somebody who did spend a lot of time with the Trump family and with Trump himself. He literally co-wrote a book with him. And so he does have that insight. He could be right, he could be wrong. But there are a lot of stories that talk about this sort of isolation coming from, aides and friends of the family. And so, look, man, I think that isolation is real, and I think that's not good for his mental state. And you could see him continue to deteriorate day after day, month after month, right? I mean, this guy's falling apart in real time and getting just more and more unhinged. And again, right? Knowing how Trump is both ruthless in his grift and, of course, how much he demands loyalty to a fault, would it be surprising that his kids offer, or aren't all the same? And, of course, all secretly despise each other? Wouldn't shock me. But, of course, as usual, you can draw your own conclusions. Hey, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.